My girlfriend of 8 years cheated on me with my best friend for 2 years. The entire group knew and made bets on when I'd find out. But I exposed the truth at the wedding and destroyed them all before they ever saw it coming. I'm 29 years old. I manage my father's office supplies company, and what happened 6 months ago basically destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted. It's not that I was naive. I mean, I knew people could be shit, but I never thought the people closest to me, the people I had literally spent the last 8 years of my life with, I could do something like this to me. I guess I should start from the beginning. When I met Claire in college, we were like 21 years old. We were juniors, and it was at one of those ridiculous frat parties where the music is so loud you can't even think. She was studying communications. I was doing business administration because my father already had it planned that I would eventually take over the family business, and honestly, it was love at first sight. Or what I thought was love. We became a couple like 3 weeks after meeting, and from there we were inseparable, like that couple that everyone knows and that's always together, everywhere. What made everything even more special, or so I thought, was that we had this incredible group of friends. Dominic was my roommate in the dorm, a tall, charismatic guy who always had a smile and a joke for any situation. We became best friends almost immediately. You know, one of those friends you can talk about anything with, who you spend hours playing video games with or just talking about life. Then there were Raymond, Chelsea, Angela, and like 4 or 5 other people who rotated, but the core was us. We did everything together. Spring break trips, birthday parties, movie nights, Sunday barbecues. When we all graduated, we more or less stayed in the area. Some moved to nearby cities, but close enough to see each other every weekend. Claire and I moved in together to a small but cozy apartment, and honestly, I thought I was living my best life. Like a year after we graduated, I started talking about marriage. I mean, we had been together for almost 3 years at that point. We were living together. Things were going well. My father had given me more responsibilities in the company, and I was making good money. I asked Claire what she thought about getting married, and she always said things like, "Oh yes, someday," or "We're still young, there's no rush," which made sense, I guess. I didn't want to pressure her because I genuinely thought we had our whole lives ahead of us. But looking back, I should have noticed that every time I brought up the subject, she would change the conversation or get a little tense. Years went by, and we were still the same, together, happy, or so I thought, with our group of friends always around. We celebrated everything together: birthdays, job promotions, any excuse to get together and have some beers or go to dinner at some new restaurant. Everything changed like a year and a half ago when Dominic met Annabelle. She came from a family with a lot of money. Like her father owned several car dealerships or something like that, and Dominic was obsessed with her. But the truth is that Annabelle was super nice and fit in well with the group, although I always felt she came from a completely different world than ours. They had only been dating for 6 months when Dominic gave us the news that he was getting married. I remember that day perfectly because we were all at a bar celebrating Raymond's birthday, and Dominic stood up and said, "I have an announcement to make. I'm going to marry Annabelle." We all screamed and congratulated him, me included, and then he came up to me and asked if I wanted to be his best man. Of course I said yes. I mean, he was my best friend. We had been through everything together since college. Claire also got super excited about the wedding, helping Annabelle with the plans and everything, and I thought how nice that my girlfriend and my best friend's fiancé got along so well. But this is where things start to get weird. Although I didn't see it at the time, Claire started acting different after Dominic's wedding announcement. When I mentioned marriage, which was already a recurring thing because we had been together for almost 7 years at that point, she would get defensive. She would tell me things like, "Why do we need a piece of paper to prove our love?" Or, "Marriage is just a social construct," which I thought was strange because before she had been the one talking about wanting a wedding with all the bells and whistles. But I let it go. I thought maybe she was stressed with work or something. She worked at an advertising agency and always had deadlines and demanding clients, so I tried to be understanding and not pressure her. The months leading up to Dominic's wedding were crazy with planning. As best man, I had responsibilities: organizing the bachelor party, helping with the guest lists, making sure everything was in order for the big day. Dominic was super stressed but also excited. We talked on the phone almost every day about the details. The the wedding was going to be at an elegant hotel like 2 hours from where we lived, one of those places with huge gardens and ballrooms with giant chandeliers, very much the style of Annabelle's family. Claire and I had a room reserved at the hotel for the wedding weekend, and I was really excited, you know, to see my best friend get married, celebrate with all our friends, have a fun weekend with my girlfriend. The Friday before the wedding, we arrived at the hotel at like 5 in the afternoon. The ceremony was Saturday at 4, so we had the whole Friday night for the rehearsal dinner and the party afterwards. Claire was weird that day, like distracted and checking her phone every 5 seconds. But I thought it was because she was coordinating something with the other girls in the group, or with Annabelle. We went to the rehearsal, which was basically practicing walking down the aisle and standing in the right places, nothing major. Then we went to dinner at this Italian restaurant. Inside the hotel, everyone from the group, plus Dominic and Annabelle's family. Dinner was fine, lots of wine, lots of laughter, Annabelle's parents giving speeches about how happy they were, all that vibe. After dinner, like at 10 at night, the group decided to go to the hotel bar for some drinks. Claire told me she was tired and was going to the room, that I should stay and have fun with the guys. She gave me a kiss on the cheek and left, and I stayed at the bar with Dominic, Raymond, and some others. We were there for like an hour, drinking whiskey and talking about the old days in college, laughing at stupid anecdotes. At like 11, Dominic said he was also going to sleep because he wanted to be fresh for the next day, which made sense, and the rest of us started to disperse too. I said goodbye to everyone and started walking to my room, which was on the 3rd floor. But when I passed through the lobby, I realized I had forgotten my wallet at the bar, so I turned around to go get. I left the hotel through one of the side doors that led to the parking lot because it was a shortcut to get back to the bar, and that's when I saw it. Dominic's car. A black Audi that I knew perfectly because I had been in that car 1,000 times, was parked in a dark corner of the parking lot, and inside the car were Claire and Dominic, kissing. It wasn't a casual kiss. It was one of those intense kisses, like with hands in each other's hair and everything. I stood there paralyzed. I literally couldn't move a single muscle in my body. I felt like someone had hit me in the stomach with a baseball bat. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what I was seeing. I thought maybe I was hallucinating, that I had drunk too much whiskey and my brain was playing a trick on me. But no, there they were. My girlfriend of 8 years and my best friend. In his car, the night before his wedding, kissing like it was the most normal thing in the world. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe it was 30 seconds, maybe it was 5 minutes. But eventually my brain reconnected and I started walking toward the car. My legs were moving on their own, like I was on autopilot. But before I could get to the car, I heard voices behind me. I turned around and saw Raymond, Chelsea, and Angela coming out of the hotel, walking toward the parking lot too. I automatically hid behind a truck because I didn't want them to see me. I don't know why. I guess I was in shock and didn't know what to do. And then I heard what they were saying, and my world shattered. For the second time that night, Raymond said something like, "Do you think Gregory has figured it out yet?" And Chelsea laughed and replied, "That idiot has no idea. He's been oblivious for months." Angela added, "Poor Annabelle. She's going to marry a guy who can't even stop sleeping with his best friend's girlfriend the night before the wedding." The 3 of them laughed, like genuine laughter, as if it were the funniest joke in the world. And then Chelsea said, "How long do you think it'll be before he finds out?" "I give it a month max after the wedding," Raymond responded. "I don't know. Gregory is pretty dense. Maybe he'll never find out." And they kept walking to their cars, laughing, and I stayed there behind that truck feeling like my heart had been ripped out of my chest, stomped on, and then given back to me shattered. In that moment, I understood everything. Not only were Claire and Dominic cheating on me, but all my friends knew. The whole group knew. And they didn't just know. They were laughing about me behind my back, calling me an idiot, making bets about when I was going to find out. 8 years of friendship, of trusting these people, of considering them my second family, and it turns out it was all a lie. I was the group's clown, and I didn't even know it. I sat on the parking lot floor, with my back against the truck, and I think it was the first time in my adult life that I genuinely considered just breaking down right there. But then something changed in me, like a switch that activated in my brain. The sadness turned into fury, a fury I had never felt before. And I decided that if they were going to play like this, I could play too. I got up, walked back to the hotel, went up to my room, and Claire was there asleep or pretending to be asleep. I don't know. I got in the shower and stayed under the hot water for like half an hour, trying to process everything and plan what I was going to do. I didn't sleep at all that night, literally nothing. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling while Claire slept next to me, and all I could think about was how I was going to handle this. At 6 in the morning, I already had a plan. I wasn't going to make a scene in private. I wasn't going to confront them in the room or in the hallway. If they had decided to turn my life into a spectacle for their entertainment, I was going to give them a show they would never forget. The wedding day passed in slow motion. I had breakfast with Claire like nothing happened. I smiled. I talked about how excited I was for the ceremony. I went to Dominic's room to help him get ready. I watched him put on his suit. He made some jokes to me about how nervous he was, and I just nodded and smiled, while inside I felt like throwing up. I had the rings. It was part of my responsibilities as best man. I kept them in the inner pocket of my jacket. At 3 in the afternoon, we all started gathering in the garden where the ceremony would be. It was a beautiful place. I'm not going to lie, with white flower arches, chairs decorated with white fabric and gold ribbons, and a long aisle of perfect green grass. There were like 200 people, mostly Annabelle's family, but our group of friends was also sitting in the front rows. The music started at 4 o'clock sharp. Dominic and I came out from one side. He looked incredibly nervous, sweating even though it was cool. The groomsmen and bridesmaids walked down the aisle, Claire among them in a lavender dress, smiling at me as she passed in front of us. Then the ring bearers came in, then the flower girls, all the traditional paraphernalia, and finally the music changed to the wedding march, and everyone stood up. Annabelle entered on her father's arm. She looked beautiful in a huge white dress and a long veil. She walked down that aisle with a radiant smile, genuinely excited to get married, having no idea what kind of person she was about to marry. She got to the altar. Her father gave her to Dominic, and the priest began the ceremony. Everything was normal for the first few minutes. The biblical readings, the priest's words about marriage and commitment. Then came the moment for the vows. The priest looked at Dominic and said the traditional words, "Do you, Dominic, take Annabelle as your lawful wife, to love and respect her in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" And just before Dominic could answer, I stepped forward and said out loud, "Excuse me, I have to say something." The silence that followed was deafening. All 200 people turned to look at me. The priest looked at me with a face of total confusion. Annabelle looked puzzled, and Dominic turned pale as a ghost. I looked directly into my ex-best friend's eyes and said, "I can't stay silent and let this wedding continue. Dominic, do you want to tell Annabelle what you were doing last night in your car? Or would you prefer I do it?" The garden exploded in murmurs. People started talking to each other, and Dominic started stuttering, trying to say something, but no words came out. Annabelle looked at me and asked, "What are you talking about?" And I replied, calmly but loud enough for everyone to hear, "Your future husband was last night kissing my girlfriend Claire in his car in the parking lot, and apparently they've been having an affair for who knows how long, while I, like the idiot I am, didn't realize anything." The chaos was instantaneous. Annabelle turned to Dominic and yelled, "Is that true?" And Dominic tried to grab her arm, but she pulled away. Claire stood up from her chair in the front row with her face red with shame and fury, yelling at me, "What the fuck are you doing?" Annabelle's mother started crying. The father stood up and walked toward the altar, looking like he wanted to kill someone. And the rest of the guests were in complete shock, some taking out their phones to record, others just with their mouths open. I took the rings out of my pocket, gave them to the priest, and said, "I don't think you're going to need these," and started walking toward the garden exit. Behind me, I could hear Dominic trying to explain, Annabelle crying, Claire yelling at me to stop, Annabelle's father saying things to Dominic that I prefer not to repeat, and the whole audience murmuring and taking photos. I got to the parking lot, got in my car, a 2018 Honda Civic that wasn't glamorous at all, but at that moment felt like my escape ship, and I left. I drove the 2 hours back to my city, But I didn't go to my apartment because I didn't want to see Claire. I went straight to my parents' house. I briefly explained to them what had happened. My mother cried. My father hugged me and told me I had done the right thing. And I locked myself in my old teenage bedroom. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from Claire, from Dominic, from Raymond, from Chelsea, from Angela, from practically everyone in the group. Text messages that said everything from, "You have to let me explain," to, "You ruined the wedding, you're a monster." I blocked all the numbers, all of them, without even reading most of the messages. I didn't want to know anything about any of them ever again. Turns out Annabelle canceled the wedding right there in the garden. According to what I later found out from a distant cousin who was invited, she gave the ring back to Dominic in front of everyone, told him she never wanted to see him again, and left with her parents. The reception was obviously canceled, but the hotel already had all the food and drinks paid for, so some guests stayed to eat and drink anyway, which I thought was hilarious when they told me. Dominic tried to go after Annabelle, but her father told him that if he saw him near his daughter again, there would be legal consequences. Claire returned to our apartment, but I had already called my father to go with a locksmith to change the locks. So when she arrived, she couldn't get in. I left all her stuff packed in boxes outside the door. Like 3 days passed before Claire showed up at my parents' house, and she knocked on the door on a Tuesday morning. I was having coffee in the kitchen with my mom when we heard her. My mom asked me if I wanted her to kick her out, but I said no, that I was going to talk to her because I needed to close that chapter. I went out to the porch and there she was, with puffy eyes from crying, her hair a mess, wearing sweatpants, and a hoodie, no makeup, looking completely destroyed. She told me we needed to talk, that she could explain everything, that it had been a mistake. I laughed, like a bitter laugh, and asked her, "A mistake of how long? A month? 6 months? A year?" She started crying harder and admitted that she had been seeing Dominic for almost 2 years, that it had started as something silly, that it was supposed to end, but they couldn't, and that she never meant to hurt me. I asked her why she simply didn't break up with me if she wanted to be with him. She told me it was complicated, that she loved me too, but in a different way, that Dominic offered her something I didn't. All vague excuses that meant nothing. I asked her why she stayed with me if she was with him, and she said she was afraid of losing the stability we had, that I was safe and reliable. Those words, safe and reliable, hurt me more than anything else she could have said. I mean, basically, I was the backup plan, the insurance, while she played around with Dominic. I asked her about the friend group, if they all knew, and she looked down and nodded. She told me that Raymond had found out first, like 6 months after it started, that he had told the others, and that they had all been waiting for me to figure it out on my own. I told her to leave, that I never wanted to see her again, that there was nothing to explain or fix. She tried to touch my arm, and I stepped back. She begged me, literally on her knees on the porch, begged for another chance, saying she would end everything with Dominic, that we would do couples therapy, whatever was necessary. But I was done, emotionally empty. I told her that the saddest part of all this wasn't that she had cheated on me, but that she had wasted 8 years of my life with someone who clearly never respected me enough to be honest with me. That while I was thinking about engagement rings and futures together, she was sleeping with my best friend and laughing with the rest of the group behind my back. That made her explode, and she started yelling at me that I had ruined her life, that because of me now everyone saw her as the bad one, that I had publicly humiliated Dominic when we could have handled all this like adults in private. I told her that they hadn't given me the courtesy of honesty in private for 2 years, so they shouldn't expect me to give them the courtesy of protecting their reputation. She got up, called me a bunch of things I'm not going to repeat, and left. That was the last time I spoke to her. But my work wasn't finished. During the following weeks and months, while I processed everything and started rebuilding my life, I also dedicated myself to something that probably shouldn't have given me as much satisfaction, but it did. I remembered things I had heard over the years, secrets that people in the group had shared in moments of trust, indiscretions I had noticed but ignored, and I decided that if they thought it was fun to destroy my life and laugh at me, I was going to show them I wasn't as stupid as they thought. Raymond, the one who had made the comment about me being dense, worked in tech sales for a medium-sized company. What I knew, and he didn't know I knew, was that he had an unauthorized side business, selling his company's client leads to competitors. He had told me this one night when he was drunk like 2 years ago, laughing about how easy it was to make extra money. I anonymously called his company's human resources department, gave them specific details about his transactions, including approximate dates and names of the buying companies that he himself had mentioned to me. 3 weeks later, Raymond was fired for violating his confidentiality contract and selling proprietary information. His career in that industry basically ended because these things spread quickly in corporate circles. Chelsea, the one who had laughed asking how long it would take me to figure it out, was a food blogger with a decent following on social media. I knew that many of her honest restaurant reviews were actually paid, something completely against the policies of the platforms where she published and contrary to what her followers believed. I had seen emails on her laptop once when we were all together and she left it open. I created fake accounts on various platforms, collected evidence of her paid posts versus her claims of organic content, and exposed it all in viral posts with screenshots and pattern analysis. Her followers turned against her. She lost brand collaborations, and her career as an influencer collapsed within days. Angela, the one who had made the comment about poor Annabelle, worked as a marketing consultant and always bragged about her degree from a prestigious university. I knew, because she once mentioned it half jokingly, half seriously, that she had actually forged her degree certificate when the university didn't process her degree on time due to an administrative problem, and she simply never corrected it later. An anonymous call to the credential verification department of her largest client company was enough for them to initiate an investigation. She lost that contract, which represented like 60% of her income, and although she wasn't arrested or anything legal, her reputation in the industry was permanently tarnished. For the rest of the group, those who also knew but hadn't been as vocal or cruel, I was more subtle but equally effective. Small things I knew mattered to them. Opportunities I anonymously sabotaged. True rumors I dropped in the right ears. Nothing illegal, but definitely vindictive. Was it ethical? Probably not. Do I regret it? Not as much as I should. They played with my life for 2 years, laughed at me, treated me like an idiot while I considered them my family. So, yes, I held them accountable for their own actions and secrets in ways they never expected. As for Dominic and Claire, I didn't need to do anything. After Annabelle canceled the wedding, Dominic tried to start an official relationship with Claire, but it turns out that when your affair becomes your main relationship and no longer has the excitement of being forbidden, things fall apart quickly. According to what I heard around, because although I blocked everyone, I live in the same city and news travels, they lasted like 3 months before ending in a horrible fight. Dominic lost not only Annabelle, but also his reputation, because it turns out that when you publicly humiliate the daughter of a powerful and wealthy family at your own wedding, that family makes sure everyone in their social and business circle knows what kind of person you are. Claire had to move cities because she couldn't go anywhere without people recognizing her as the one who ruined Dominic's wedding, thanks to the million videos that circulated on social media of the moment I blew everything up. Today I'm 29 years old. I still manage my father's company, which is growing well. I moved to a new apartment in a different neighborhood, and honestly, I'm okay. I'm not going to say I'm completely healed or that I don't have bad days, because I do. There are days where I wonder if I should have handled things differently, if it was necessary to be so nuclear with my revenge, if I lost some of my humanity in the process of making them pay for what they did. But then I remember that night in the parking lot, hearing my supposed friends laughing at me, calling me an idiot, making bets about my life like it was a joke, and the guilt disappears. I haven't spoken to anyone from that group again. I have them all blocked on all platforms. I changed my phone number, and I basically erased those 8 years of my life like they never existed. It was hard at first because they were my entire social circle, but it turns out that when you cut toxic people out of your life, even though it's painful, you make room to meet better people. I've made new friends. Through work and hobbies, I picked up again. People I hope are genuine, although I'm definitely more cautious now. I went on a couple of dates, but nothing serious yet, and that's okay. I'm not in a hurry. I learned that it's better to be alone than to be surrounded by people who betray you and laugh at you behind your back. The craziest part of all this is that I never received a real apology from anyone. Not from Claire, not from Dominic, Not from Raymond, Chelsea, Angela, none of them. Some tried to justify themselves, others simply disappeared, but no one had the courage to say, "I'm sorry. What we did was wrong," and that tells me everything I need to know about the kind of people they were. Last weekend, I was at the supermarket and I saw Chelsea from a distance in another aisle. I made eye contact for a second. She turned pale and literally ran out of the store. And I'm not going to lie, that made me smile. Not because I enjoy her fear or discomfort, but because it's a reminder that actions have consequences, and that sometimes the universe, or in this case me, makes sure people pay for what they do. Am I happy? That's a complicated question. I'm more at peace than I was 6 months ago, that's for sure. I'm building a new life without the weight of fake relationships and hidden betrayals. But I'm also not going to pretend this didn't change me. I'm more cynical now, more distrustful, slower to open my heart to people. I'll probably need therapy at some point to properly process all this. But for now, I'm functioning day by day, rebuilding my life one step at a time, and trying to learn from this whole mess without letting it completely define me. And I guess that's enough for now.